Happy Friday, guys. Welcome back to Inside the Lines. There are some interesting things that happened yesterday, statistically impressive things that happened. For those who tuned in because of that, I'm going to have to show you what we did yesterday. Mark this day because this is hard to do. We went 0-8. 0-8 yesterday. So good news is it literally can't get worse than this. OG goes 1 for 6 from the 3. A lot of bizarre blowouts that you really just cannot calculate for. So great news for the team. Buy the stock while it's low because we can only go up from here. So we're going to get started on that road up right about now with Steven and Jake. Guys, are you feeling confident about today? Because I am now.
Totally. I was over 5 last week and bounced back with an 11-5 run, I think. And when I ran my own site for years before coming over here to CBS, our subscriptions would actually go up after a bad night and go down and plateau after a good one, because people, once they trusted that there was some real legitimacy to the service, they did, like a good stock, you buy it when it falls, crashes
Right.
that one day.
So yesterday, like, even though our picks were bad, like I hit Hofstra live twice yesterday and hit both because they were down 20 at half and they were actually up with 2 minutes to go. So we missed that plus 120 parlay, but I got them live at plus 8 in the first half, then plus 12.5 at the start of the second half. So that was nice. And then also we had model value on Maryland, and they were down 11 to Michigan, and they ended up winning by 7. So that was nice. And no, Jeff, I'm not in bed. I'm just on my couch with Moose here wearing my Moose shirt.
Yeah, Moose was exhausted from our 0-8 day. At least Big Cheesy Cash. Go Brooke Lopez. Good for you. All right. 5 different games we have some value on today. We're going to go through those quickly. Then we're going to hit the 2 other NFL games for Sunday that we haven't hit yet. We'll do Eagles, Tampa Bay on Monday, but a lot of NFL picks at the end of the show after NBA. So let's start here. We're going with Sabonis, headed to Philly. No Embiid tonight, so we think he can take advantage of that here.
Yeah, historically, he's struggled against Embiid. He averages more personal fouls. He only 8 rebounds, fewer minutes because he gets in foul trouble. Without Embiid there, that shouldn't be the case. He has 3 straight games with only 10 rebounds, but that's only because 2 of the were blowout wins, like massive blowout wins, and 1 was a massive blowout loss. So he hasn't played a competitive game to get 13. So I think that before that, when they were playing closer games with 3 of his prior 4 games were final margins of 3, 5, and 3, he went over in those 4 straight games. So I think that's the case here. While Sacramento is on the road, so it should still be relatively close.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move over to a very interesting game here. The Rockets headed to the Pistons. We have a little bit of value on the Rockets, but a player prop probably better. Yeah,
Alperen Sengun, who's had a great year, and this is a classic he's due. I know that's not the most scientific thing in the world, but he has no blocks in his last 4 games. His career average is right under 1. His blocks are down a little bit this year because he's doing more offensively and maybe taking fewer risks, doesn't want to get into foul trouble. And he has no blocks in his 2 games versus Detroit. But again, without Cade Cunningham for Detroit, the team's been shooting more 2-point attempts. They average a little under 58 for the season, but recently they've had games with 64, 65, and 64 attempts from 2-point range. And they actually get a lot of, because one of the reasons why Detroit is so bad is they don't have good shooting. So they actually rely on power forwards and centers like it's 1982 for offense. Guys who aren't known for great offensive players like Jalen Duren, and even Wiseman's been playing for them. So we're expecting a good 20-plus field goal attempts from true bigs, which hopefully, and they'll challenge Sengun because he's not a great shot blocker, which could result in hopefully that 1 block.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's head over to a game Jake has some value in. Going to Charlotte, headed to the Spurs. We actually have the Charlotte winning this game by just a point here, but you like Wemby, Jake.
Yeah, so perhaps the craziest thing about his triple-double was that he had no blocks in his 22 minutes when he played. And so he is due today. We have him for 2.9 blocks. And then if you look at Charlotte, they were blocked 8 times last game. Over the last 3 games, they've been blocked 7 times. I think it's KCP or some player like that blocked Charlotte, had 4 blocks against Charlotte. So they get blocked a ton. I think they're the 5th most blocked team. So I'm betting on Wemby after having no blocks in his last game, even though it was a triple-double, to get some blocks today.
All right, let's head over here. Let's go to the Magic headed to the Heat. Banchero has had some trouble against the Heat, actually, through his 4 games he's played them, right, Steven? Oh, sorry.
You're muted.
Go ahead.
This number's high because he was on a tear before his last game where he only had 23 points, rebounds, and assists. He was on a 6-1 tear with over 44 average. But yeah, the under in his career versus Miami, the under is 4-0 with just a 29.2 average. He only shoots 30% from the field in his 4 matchups with versus Bam Adebayo. And without Franz Wagner and Gary Harris, he really has he can't kick it out to a reliable perimeter shooter. And then the Miami defense could really focus in on Paolo the way that who did they lose to, or the way that Orlando's last opponent shut him down. I'm blanking on who that was. Someone good defensively.
Utah?
It was OKC.
OKC.
No. It was Minnesota. That's right. Minnesota shut him down.
Speaking of OKC, this isn't a game I believe we have value on, but someone in the chat, if I can find my screen, was asking about Portland team total, if we had any value on the under here.
Portland team total. Yes, we do. We have the under for both teams, but we have Portland at under 100 points projected. So assuming the line's well under that. They only average 105 on the road in general. And some of the recent road numbers, 77 at OKC, 84 in New York, 97 at Dallas, 88 at Phoenix. One aberrant game against Brooklyn, but they've been under 104 for this entire road stretch with under 100 in most of them.
You know, what's crazy about that game yesterday between OKC and Portland was just over 2 years ago, OKC had a 79-point loss, which was the biggest loss in NBA history. And just 2 years later, it just shows you how quick you could turn around your team. They have the 5th best win in NBA history with 62.
Yeah. And also Minnesota really shuts down teams at home, 103 at home.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
I don't know if anyone noticed, but I just got kicked out of my own studio that I set up. I didn't know that was possible, but glad everyone else was able to hang around there. All right, let's move on. I have to re-pull up our graphics super quick. All right, it's talked about Banchero. Let's head to the last game. Sorry, I have an echo. Let me try to take us out.
Sounds cool. You should sing some Led Zeppelin or something.
Now you're muted.
Yeah, am I muted?
No, Mackenzie's
Okay, I like New Orleans plus 8.5, and the model does too. We have it closer at Denver by 4. Pelicans have bounced back from a bad game 3 games ago with 2 massive scoring nights, 141 and 133. They've been over 110, which is what their implied total at these eyes in 7 of the last 8 games. Denver's 3-point defense has not been as good this year at home as it was last season. They're allowing 3 percentage points higher at home than they did a year ago. The Pelicans now have 4 trusted high volume, high 3-point percentage shooters on the team. So I think that as long as one is McCollum, because they need his as a point guard, and one of the other 3 guys are hot, then they can hit enough threes to keep it close and spread defenders out, leaving plenty of room for Zion to operate. I also like that Valanciunas is good enough offensively to keep Jokic occupied, so he can't just do what he wants, roam on defense and go wherever he wants. And Valanciunas has the size to at least, again, keep Jokic somewhat bothered.
Mm-hmm. I see Big Cheesy in the chat asking about Keegan Murray here. I believe Jake is on that. And if you scroll all the way up to the chat, Jake did put some plays in that aren't exactly model value, but picks he's on as well.
Yeah, I'm on Murray over 5.5 rebounds. We have him at 5.7, but I think this is just a good rebounding opportunity for him today. But I don't mind his points. He's been on fire lately. I don't mind playing up points and rebounds. I played Jalen Johnson points and rebounds too.
All right. Good stuff there. Again, any other NBA questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We're going to head on over to the association once I can. Oh, I lost everything when I got booted. Here we go. All right, let's start with the Packers headed to Dallas. We're in line with the odds makers here with the spread. Both Jake and Steven on Rico Dowdle here. We'll start with Steven, who's on just his rushing yards, but then Jake is on his rushing and receiving yards here.
Yeah, he came back from an injury. He had 9 carries of 46 yards last week, and he would have cleared the over even before the game got out of hand. So it wasn't just pure garbage time. I also like the fact that Dallas averages 120 rushing yards at home. Green Bay allows 143 on the road. So 100 for a team is conservative, I would say. And Pollard's rush yard line plus Dak's rush yard line only equals 74. So even in a conservative measure, there's 25 plus yards that hopefully won't go to Keontae Turpin on a jet sweep, but which it could, because one every third game he does that. But I'm thinking it'll go to Dowdle in this case. I also think that if Dallas goes up surprisingly big early, that given Pollard got hurt last year in the playoffs, maybe they give it to Dowdle if they had a lead and he's a slightly bigger, more durable back. But if Dallas is playing poorly, maybe Pollard, it's because of Pollard ineffectiveness, which again could lead to opportunities for Dowdle because he's actually a receiving yard threat, as Jake points out. So that's kind of, I think that he also averages more at home, 22.5 at home, 8 more than he does on the road.
Yeah, I like this play a lot. I was thinking about just doing the rush yards, but he had 3 catches for 54 yards in the last game. I know it was against Washington, but they really like giving him screens. So I like this play. I just like just to be a little safer, I added the receiving yards as well, but I also don't mind playing over 25 rush yards at plus 130. I know you get that on Hard Rock and FanDuel and a couple others.
How about anytime touchdown? Big Cheesy pulling that one out.
Don't hate that play depending on the value.
Awesome value. All right, let's move on here. Sticking with the Cowboys, we're going to Brandon Cooks here. We like his receptions. Jake has mentioned before, Cowboys win strongly correlated with big performances from Cooks here.
Yeah, I mean, and since he was a massive disappointment the first third of the season, then he broke out with a 170-yard game, whatever. And since then, since he's established himself as the clear number 2, the over's 5-4. He's averaging over 4 receptions a game. And when Dallas wins at home, it's because of a big game from Cooks. And based on the odds and the model, that is the most likely scenario.
All right, let's head over to one more play here. We are Team Jordan Love. Okay, just this game, this might be a high number for him.
Yeah, I mean, for the season, Love is completing just a little over 61% of his passes on the road versus 67 at home. His passing yards is under 230 per game on the road, so it's considerably lower. So all the models projecting is kind of average. That's against a great Cowboys defense that allowed the fifth fewest passing yards. And given that the Cowboys did have a lot of big, huge leads, that often leads to more passing yards in garbage time against prevent defenses. So that's actually a very impressive stat to have a big point differential and then still excel in allowing few passing yards. Green Bay, I also think Green Bay's been, with Aaron Jones, when he came back from injury, has been running very well, averaging over 120 yards rushing. So I think that to negate that Dallas pass rush, you might want to run right up the middle against them where they've been soft, especially most notably against Buffalo.
I see Jared pointing out in the chat, could be a big game for Aaron Jones here, who is returning home to Dallas.
Yeah, the model, we're only projecting right around the same as his line, which is low 70s in rushing yards. But I think that A.J. Dillon is not 100% and not nearly as good of a runner as Jones. So I think this is a case where if Dillon is clearly banged up, then Jones is in line for what he's been recently, which is 20 carries. And if he gets that kind of usage at running back, then I like the over.
You're muted, Mackenzie.
Thank you, Jake. All right. Anyway, we have a big game here with the Rams headed to the Lions, where we have a little bit of value on the Lions here. But Jahmyr Gibbs, someone we've been on a lot this season, who more often than not definitely exceeds our expectations here.
Model, it's interesting. I think a lot of the people, at least I listen to, are on the Rams, and I understand why the Rams are really impressive and had a great end of the season. But Detroit, going back to last season, has been +8 margin of victory at home and negative on the road. So this is a team that's built for those home conditions. That's why the model favors them so pretty significantly. I like Gibbs because he's due, and I know that again that logic is not that sound, but he hasn't had a receiving yard in the last 2 games, so he's due. Sam Laporta, the news, he's trending up, but he certainly can't be anywhere near 100%. So I'm thinking some of the looks that would have gone to Laporta, who had a 80 catches this year. It will go to Gibbs instead. Derek was talking in our meeting earlier that with Aaron Donald in the middle of that defensive line, that could lead to more opportunities, rushing opportunities for Gibbs, who's a little quicker on the edges. And the Rams defense allows 4.5 yards per carry on the road versus 3.9 at home. Lions average slightly more yards per carry at home. He averages over 90 rushing and receiving yards at home. Again, off 2 quiet games where he's had 73 total rushing yards and 0 receiving yards. He's due to pop.
I know we like his yards. Is it possible that we also have value on Montgomery's rushing yards as well, or probably not?
Not enough for me to pick it, but let me check. Yeah, we do have a slight lean. So that's the thing. We had Gibbs. We had a slight lean on the over in both his rushing and his receiving, which is why I went with that play. Montgomery, we do have 61.5 rushing yards projected versus a consensus line of 55.5 maybe. So we do have a lean there. So it depends on the juice. If it's like minus 105, minus 110, then maybe there. But if it's like minus 115, minus 120, I wouldn't take that.
All right, I see Nick S. talking about Puka here. And as always, we are in line with him. We have Puka to go over the 75.5 as well. We have him projected for 94 yards.
Yeah, his season splits road home, which I think maybe impacting the line here, is significantly lower at home with just a 77.7 average on the road versus over 98 at home. But that's misleading because, 3 of the, 8 road games they played overlapped with the Stafford injury where he missed a game and then also was playing hurt or got hurt. So that is what artificially lowered his number. When the team really needed him in the last 5 games, he exploded with 118, 164, 84, 105, only 1 game under. Detroit is allowing the 6th most passing yards in the league. And so I think that conditions are right at 75.5 to go over that.
Lots of volume headed this way. We're going to see in the air. So we also like Stafford to throw an interception here. We have him just about at 1 interception for this game.
Yeah, in today's NFL, the best, most prolific passers are often lead the league in interceptions. Allen, Hurts this year, Mahomes, Tua, Trevor Lawrence, Jared Goff, as well as some of the worst quarterbacks, Sam Howell, Ritter, and Mack. So Stafford fits in that first category. He had, despite missing 2 games and having a 4-game stretch with 0 interceptions, he still is 10th in the league in interceptions. The Lions defense, pass rush specifically, is much better at home. They average 50% more sacks going back to last season at home. So there's going to be, there should be a rush on Stafford. There's going to be crowd noise. And he also trusts his wide receivers. So he's going to throw a lot of 50-50 balls. Even the great game they played in the loss against Baltimore, Marlon Humphrey should have ended that game in regulation with an end zone touch interception that he dropped. So I think Stafford can play a great game, but still throw one pick.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how those quarterbacks have been reacting at the top and the bottom of the league with interceptions. We have one more play here from Jake. He is on Demarcus Robinson here. Not someone we've talked about a lot yet.
Yeah, I'd go with the former Florida Gator here. We have him at 55 yards. I don't mind playing it just over 3.5 receptions. We have him at 3.6, so not much value, but I like that play as well. He has 6 receptions in his last 2 games. With such focus on Puka and Cooper Kupp, he kind of falls under the radar because he has the 3rd corner on him, and he's lined up in the slot. He's lined up outside, so he has some versatility. And I just like this play just because it's going to be such a focus on the other guys, and there's definitely some weakness in this Detroit secondary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the sleeper receivers here. And speaking of sleepers, who are we if we're not going to go over one college basketball prop that nobody has probably ever heard of? So, Jake, without further ado, let's talk about Boise State, obviously.
I got to go fade the coach's son on the road because Leon Rice's son, Leon Rice is Boise State's coach. His son, Max Rice, he's a 5th-year senior, but his home stats, his averages 20.5 points, rebounds, and assists. On the road, he averages just 17.5. I think we have him for around 16. But, there's nothing like a coach's son getting heckled when he plays on the road. As soon as he touches the ball, they're going to be like, your daddy's boy and stuff like that. So it's not a surprise that he tends to go under when he plays on the road.
That's fair. We're betting on college kids here. Okay, emotions play a role in it. And one more pick from Jake I meant to mention this. This goes back to the Steelers-Bills game that we covered last episode, I believe it was, but this is a good play for underdog or probably price picks as well. But Mason Rudolph to have more than 2 sacks.
Yeah, I was surprised that his line was just 2, not 3 here. We have the Bills with 2.68 sacks, so it's really good push insurance. And I would be really surprised if he doesn't get sacked at least twice. The only thing that scares me is him taking a hard sack and leaving the game due to injury. So that scares me a bit. And his pocket presence, like Steven said, wasn't that great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's why we like him to just scramble for 5 yards. We're looking for 5 yards for him to be flushed out of the pocket, take a little dive. It's definitely possible to cash both of these. Let's take a look back at our plays for today. Again, we just covered 2 games. We'll cover the Eagles Bucks game on Monday, but if you want to get our other NFL plays, take a look back at the episodes through the week. Here's NBA, college basketball today. Again, it literally cannot get worse than it did yesterday. So buy low. Things are looking good. We had a great week relative, didn't we? We had a great Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. God forbid we have one bad Thursday, okay? Sue us. We're going to have a good weekend. Lots of bets, lots of things to cash tonight. Next couple days, good luck to everyone. Of course, reach out to us on Twitter with any questions, and we'll see you guys Monday.